Hello everyone, today I'll be showing you how to skin a pair of pants, especially around the hip and crotch area. So by the end of this video, you'll be able to skin a pair of pants, the crotch area, roughly within 10 to 15 minutes and get a fairly nice result. Back when I was in school, this is the part I struggled the most. It was very confusing to me because some parts were influenced by the joint on the other side of the body. So, for example, the right thigh here, the joint is actually pulling the verts from the left side of the body, and the left thigh, vice versa, is pulling the verts on the other side. And mirroring the weight sometimes overrides what I manually painted, so I often feel that I had to rely on Maya, but also I had to fight against it. This video will contain two parts. The first 6 minutes, 7 minutes will be about topology checking. So when we get to the actual skinning after, the work process can be a little bit smoother or easier for us. If the pants topology or geometry you have received is very good already, please forward this video to around 7 minutes and start from there. I hope this video is simple enough to watch and follow along and help you have a better understanding of the importance of topology in general. Before we start skinning the lower body, we would first look at the topology. This step is very important as a nice deformation needs good topology to support. Also, the earlier we spot model issues, the sooner we can get it adjusted for modeling in production, and the sooner we can get the skinning delivered to animation. When I check pants topology or body topology in general, there are two parts I check specifically. There will be the horizontal edge loops like these and the symmetry. First, I'll check the horizontal loops. The space between the horizontal loops should be approximately the same. As we can see on the three models, these two the space between each horizontal loops, like these and these and these, the space between them, they're roughly the same. They're more evenly spaced. The less ideal part will be this one. As we can see, this loop and this loop, they're kind of far. Oops, this loop and this loop, they're kind of far apart. But these two, they're more closer to each other, which is what we try to avoid. We want the edge loops to be roughly the same, evenly spaced. We would also want the horizontal loops to be as horizontal as possible, so the verts on each loop don't have too much difference in terms of the y-axis. What I mean is these two is also the better examples. This one is probably the best because we can see this one, it's more very even, like they're roughly on the same line, on the same plane. But we can see edge loops like these. Here it is roughly low, and here is roughly is much taller or higher than this one, but they're on the same edge loop. What we want is we're trying to make them as horizontal or less diagonal as possible. So after the horizontal edge loops, the second part we will check is the symmetry. I will first check if the middle edge loop is perfectly centered and merged. To check that, I'll go to the front view and I'll select all the middle edge loops. Make sure when you select two of them, the whole edge loop gets selected. If they don't get selected, that means the edge loops, they're not properly merged, or there are some issues that we need to further investigate. So we'll check all the middle edge loops. I'll use this one as an example. I'll hide the other two. So I'll bring this one to the center. So first, I'll select all the edge loops in the middle, and I will scale them down, like squeeze them more all to the center, and I'll make sure that they're all in the center. So this one you can see it's a little bit off center, and we need to make sure like they're really centered and they're perfectly merged. So after we center the middle edge loop, we will check if the rest of the pans are symmetrical. As we can clearly see in here, in this case, that this is not really symmetrical. Like as you can see, like these edge loops are much more closer to the center compared to the other side. So what I will do is I'll force them to be symmetrical. I will select one side and I'll go to edit mesh, symmetrize, and it will ask me select a mesh edge for symmetry. In this case, the symmetry axis will be the middle edge loop. So I'll double click and it will select the whole edge loop for me, and it will force symmetrize the pants for me. And now the pants is perfectly symmetrical. Please note that this function is only available in the more recent versions like Maya 2018 and app. Okay, so once we finish checking the topology of the pants, it's time to start skinning. To keep this video simple, I am not going to add controls to my joints, so it will just be the joints and the pants. I know when we're actually doing skinning, it's most likely that there will be controls. So just to make sure when you're skinning the pants, I find it will work better if we turn on the FK joints on the legs. The reason being that is if we turn on the FK joints or just keep using whatever the joint hierarchy it is, we can actually move the joints in the hierarchy. So we know like the thigh joints will drive the knee joint, and the knee joint will drive the ankle joint. If we turn on the IK, the problem with IK is when we move just one control, there will be a bunch of joints being moved together. So say for example, if we have the IK on and we move the foot, when we raise the foot up, it will first move the thigh joint and then we'll move the knee joint all together. And it's confusing when we're skinning because we want to know exactly how much one joint is influencing a specific area, not multiple joints being triggered and influencing a bigger area together. Okay, so now we can start binding. In this case, since it's a much simpler hierarchy, I'm just gonna select spine and pants, and I go to bind skin. I will reset. Everything I'll keep at default. It doesn't really matter in this case. So once it's binded, you will see when we select the joint hierarchy, the whole mesh will be pink. That means the mesh here currently is being deformed. So now I right click, oops, and I go to paint skin weight tool. And you can see the automatic, it's influencing everything a lot. And it's being really smooth. That's what we don't want. I'm going to start from skin block. So I'll first flood everything to spine 0, and I'll work my way from there. The first part I'm gonna do is I'll start defining how much the thigh joint will influence on the mesh. For this specific part, I am going to select both sides all together. So roughly, I'll stop my weight around where the joint ends. This one doesn't really matter. We can select one more edge loop, or one more edge loop, or one less edge loop, because we're gonna smooth this area anyway after. Oops. Okay. So I go back to the weight tool and I hit L. Oops, I missed the bottom part. Okay. So now if I move them together, it's actually, if you guys are familiar with the keys, we can also set some keys. So we don't have to manually move it. And we can just scrub through the timeline. And this one will be at the bind pose. Oops. Sorry. Yeah, because we're only rotating. I will still like to keep the joint value the same. So in here we see this, and that's the pose. Okay. So I'll go to my middle frame here, and I'll start smoothing. So as you can see here, this edge loop is roughly where the joint ends. We can also select another one, it doesn't really matter. And we scrub the timeline here. I go to my weight tool. Here in this case, I am going to lock my joints. So in this case, the weight will just be between the thigh joint and the spine joint. It's between these two. Because currently only the left thigh is triggered. And they're gonna go smooth. So once I smooth that, okay, I'll go a little bit more. Naturally, I just expand my selection a little bit more. And because we're already smooth the middle area, so I'm going to unselect the middle edge loop. And I'm just gonna smooth it a little bit more. Here we also see the other reason why it's important to have good edge loops or good topology, so we can select the whole edge loop together without selecting each vertex manually. And then here I'm just gonna check a little bit just to make sure it's smooth. Okay. Okay. I sometimes also do Control Z when I smooth, because sometimes I tend to over smooth a little bit. So say in this case, I feel like here maybe I over smooth a little bit, so you see the word kind of goes in a little bit too much. And then in this case, I'll just Control Z a little bit to drag the word a little bit out a little bit more. And then so here I am pretty happy with the results. I'm going to see the back pose, and I see here it's a little bit, it's crashing a little bit, so I can smooth this area a little bit more. Sometimes when we have edge loop that's not very say horizontal, so say the edge loop is like going up, or like one part that's really low and one part is really high, what could happen is when we're at the front it's not crashing at all, and when we move it to the back it starts crashing. It's not really ideal in that case, but if it happens, we can manually fix the skinning a little bit. So I'll give the weight, make the weight really, really tiny, and I'll just start painting. Also, if you have texture on the pants, and we also want to maintain the texture to make sure it doesn't stretch that much, we can also, here in display, we can turn off the color feedback. So we'll just be skinning on the texture pants. In this case, I don't have any texture, but if you have texture, you can do that. And also, because we're only unlocking the 2 joints, so the weight can't really go too wrong, even if we don't have the color map turned on, because the weight is literally just transferring between the 2. And if we ever mess up, we can always Control Z to go back, or we just flat 1 to like 100 and just restart again. So in this case, I'll go a little bit. Okay. So note in this case, my left joint is influencing both sides, which is okay because I'm gonna mirror the weight later. I don't want to mirror it so early because it will get more complicated. So for now, I'll just make sure like they are, like both sides are influenced okay by the 1 joint. And so we test the front and we test to the back. We can also check the side a little bit. This side won't be used too much, so I think this is okay. We can also pull this one a little bit out, I guess. Yeah, this part, it doesn't really matter because, again, like the leg probably will never go to the sideways that far. Okay. So once we're happy with the general area, like how much the thigh is moving, the legs are moving, then it's time for us to mirror. So I'll select the whole mesh. I'll go mirror joint. Oh, sorry, mirror skin weight. In this case, since it's pretty simple, I'm just going to use the default one, and I hit apply. Also, you don't have to select all the words. You can just hit the whole, select the whole mesh, and apply. That will work the same. So now if we move them together, and it should be the same as like how I move just 1 joint and move the whole pants together. But in this case, here you see the tricky part is the edge loop in the middle. This one. Oops. There's some topology issues, I guess. So in this case, the edge loop in the middle, they are not being mirrored properly, or Maya doesn't really know how to handle the weight for the edge loops in the middle. So as you can see here, if I move both legs out, you will see this one will really expect these edge loops to stay in the middle or as centered as possible, but as you can see, it's being dragged by by 1 joint a lot more. So in this case, I'm going to manually define the weight here. How I'm going to do this is I'm going to turn off the spine, because currently the weight distribution is not about the spine anymore. It's about the weight between the left and right thigh. So I'll only have this 2. And I'll make sure the weight are all given to one side of the joint. So as you can see, it's here. And Maya has this function called scale. So I'm going to basically spare half of the weight to the other side. So I'm going to hit 0.5. So it will basically just evenly contribute the weight between the two joints. So as we move them now, it will be all good. Okay, and now we can technically mirror it again, and the weight should stay the same once we have the middle edge loop defined. So you see, after we mirror it, the middle edge loop is still working just as good as before. One issue we had is sometimes in Maya, it doesn't mirror really well. So as you can see in here, on this side, it's 100% white, but on this side, it kind of missed a point a little bit. You can manually fix, or if I want to do it quickly, I'll just unlock all my joint weight, and I go to prune small weight, and I set mine to like very tiny the weight basically, and I hit apply. And as you can see, the weight here is fixed. Okay. So now, since we already defined the weight in the middle, we're gonna do the weight for the other side of the pants. So in Maya, we all know that we usually mirror the skin weight from the left side to right side. So in this case, when we move the right leg or right thigh joint, we wanna some of the words on this side. Oops. Want some of the word on this side say like these words. Probably not that much. We wanna like say these words to be pulled or to be moving with the joint on the other side. So what I'm gonna do is gonna deselect some of the joints, and I'll kind of define the range. How many joints are how many words should be moving with the other side of the leg. So I think this is roughly a good amount. Once again, I'm going to log all the joints. I'll only leave the right thigh and the left thigh together. And for this part, I know it's going to be the right thigh moving this part. So I'm gonna only turn on, I'm gonna select this joint, and I'm gonna start smoothing. Oops. There's this one more edge loop that I forgot to select. Okay. And then I'll just start pulling. Try not to smooth it too much. We can always just like smooth it a little bit and see how it goes. And we want to see it in motion, see how much has been stretched. So right now, if I move, I'll see, the amount being stretched by the other side of the joint is pretty good. I know this part is looking terrible, but because this is on the right side of the body, so, and we're only focusing on the left side, this is not what I'm worried about the most. So I just move around and see if the left side only is moving correct. And I'm pretty happy with the results. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select all the birds again and apply. So I'm gonna mirror it again. And now, as we move together, we see the result is pretty good. So when we move these two together, this is moving okay, and this is moving alright too. If you want to smooth this area a little bit more, it's okay as well, but it will just be the weight between this joint, between the spine 0 and the two thigh joints. And we see it move around in different axes, and I'm pretty happy with the result. So here's how to skin the crotch. And then for the knee, I'm just gonna do it quickly. Oops. So it's roughly here. And it's the thigh joint and the knee joint. Okay, 100%. And I'll move the joint again. So this area will probably have half of the influence. So here, then I'll expand my selection a little bit more, deselect the middle one, and I'll smooth between the two. Just try not to over smooth. So here I see this, oops, this edge loop is moving a little bit too much. Give a little bit of weight. And here we go. We have skinned the knee. Again, if you're not happy with how much it's been smooth, we can always manually add a little bit more weight. Just make sure not to overdo it. And keep the other joints locked if possible. Okay. So that looks good. And I'm just gonna mirror my weight again. So now this side has been skinned properly as well. And if we check this side, sometimes like it's not mirrored properly. There's a little bit of weight. No biggie. We can always unlock all the joints, and I'll prune the weight again. So after pruning, the weird extra bleeding of the weight should be going away. So that's pretty much it. And we can just keep skinning the ankle, the foot, and whatever we need. Thank you for watching.